One more swing and you'll never see again. The words sliced through the alley's damp chill like a blade. 3 masked attackers locked mid-strike, bats hovering inches from the crumpled form on the oil-slick pavement. A lean 10-year-old white kid in a threadbare gray sweatshirt balanced on a second-floor fire escape, faded tennis ball spinning on his fingertip. His stare could cut steel. That crumpled suit on the oil-slick pavement. Tech Emperor Victor Hale, 90 seconds from blackout forever. And this boy was the only pulse in the night. Yo, welcome back to Real Talk Chronicles. Drop that follow, let's keep the circle tight, fam. The screen flickered to life with a familiar logo, pulsing red and gold against a backdrop of city lights. The narrator's voice dropped into that easy rhythm that made millions lean in closer. Father, shield every viewer tonight, guard their homes, steady their wallets, calm every storm, and spark the miracles they're too tired to ask for. Amen. The prayer hung in the air for 30 perfect seconds, a moment of collective breath before the plunge. This isn't only about a billionaire pulled from the gutter. It's the detonation that happens when the system realizes one overlooked kid can aim better than all their hired muscle. But before the pitch lights ever burned green, before council seats cracked under truth, we gotta rewind to the night a single throw rewrote every ledger in the city. Drop your city below, let's track where this strike lands tonight. The camera dissolved from the alley's frozen tableau into the sleek interior of a black luxury sedan gliding through Northside's forgotten streets. Victor Hale sat in the back, tablet glowing against his sharp features. His fingers flew across contracts that could reshape entire districts. Retail developments, prime real estate, numbers that made city planners salivate. Pull over here, he told his driver, eyes never leaving the screen. I need an authentic walk. Clear my head before the vote. The driver hesitated. Sir, this area's not safe after dark. Victor waved him off. I've got security on speed dial. 5 minutes. The sedan eased to the curb beside a row of boarded-up storefronts. Victor stepped out, Italian leather shoes meeting cracked concrete. The air carried the metallic tang of coming rain. He adjusted his cufflinks, already calculating how this authentic experience would play in tomorrow's press conference. 3 figures emerged from the shadows between buildings, hoodies pulled low, bats resting casually on shoulders. The lead attacker spun his weapon like a conductor's baton. Wallet. Phone. Now. Victor's hand moved to his pocket, but his mind was already 3 steps ahead. Negotiate. Oh. His security detail would notice the GPS drop any second. The first bat connected with his ribs. Air exploded from his lungs. The second caught his knee, dropping him to the pavement. Papers scattered from his briefcase like white flags of surrender. Should have stayed in your tower, rich boy. The third attacker raised his bat for the finishing blow. Victor's vision tunneled. This wasn't how it ended. Not in some forgotten alley over a few thousand in cash and a watch. From the fire escape above, Liam Carter watched everything. 10 years old and already knowing the city's pulse better than most adults. His mom worked double shifts at the diner 3 blocks over. He'd learned early that precision was survival, that a well-aimed throw could end fights before they started. He'd been practicing against the brick wall behind their apartment for hours. The tennis ball was his constant companion, worn smooth from countless impacts. His fingers knew its weight, its bounce, its spin like they knew his own heartbeat. The lead attacker's eye socket. Perfect target. 23 feet. Slight cross breeze. Liam's arm moved before his mind finished calculating. The ball left his hand with a whisper. It crossed the distance in a heartbeat, striking true. The attacker dropped like a puppet with cut strings, hands clutching his face as blood seeped between his fingers. Porch lights exploded on up and down the block. Windows flew open. Voices shouted into the night. Police. I just called the police. What the hell is going on down there? The remaining attackers bolted, disappearing into the maze of side streets they knew better than any map. Sirens already wailed in the distance. Liam stayed on the fire escape, watching as neighbors poured into the alley. Someone had a phone light on Victor's face. Someone else was pressing a jacket against the worst of the bleeding. He's breathing. Barely. Keep him awake. Ambulance is 3 minutes out. Liam's heart hammered against his ribs. He'd never hit a person before. Only targets. Puddles. The occasional rat that got too bold near the dumpsters. But the math had been perfect. The need had been immediate. Down in their second-floor apartment, Sarah Carter stood at the kitchen window, dish towel forgotten in her hands. She'd seen the whole thing. Seen her son balance on that rusted fire escape like it was solid ground. Seen the ball fly true. "Liam," she whispered, though he couldn't hear her. "What have you done?" Victor came back to consciousness in fragments. The metallic taste of blood. The smell of wet concrete. A small hand pressing something soft against his temple. "Stay with me, mister. Help's coming." He tried to focus on the voice. "Young. Steady. Not afraid." "What's your name?" the voice asked. "Victor. Victor Hale." "Cool. Liam. You got a phone. Mine's dead." Victor managed a weak laugh that turned into a cough. "Pocket. Left side." Liam fished out the phone, already dialing. "Yeah, I need an ambulance at the corner of 8th and Mercer. Got a guy here who took a pretty bad beating. 3 guys with bats. They ran east toward the rail yard." He listened for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, I'll stay with him." The efficiency of it impressed Victor through the pain. This kid was 10? 11. Running the scene like a seasoned paramedic. "You always rescue billionaires on your way home from Little League," Victor rasped. "First time. Usually just hit home runs off the water tower." Despite everything, Victor laughed. The motion sent fresh pain through his ribs, but it felt good. Real. Headlights swept the alley as the ambulance crested the corner. Paramedics swarmed, efficient and professional. Liam stepped back, melting into the gathering crowd of neighbors. Sarah met him at the apartment door, pulling him into a fierce hug that smelled of diner grease and worry. "You okay?" "I'm fine, Mom." He needed help. "You could have been killed." "I was careful." 23 feet. Wind was 3 miles an hour from the west. Perfect arc. She pulled back, studying his face. "You calculated the wind." "Always do." Sarah shook her head, a mix of pride and terror warring in her eyes. "Your dinner's cold." "I'll heat it up." Liam headed for the microwave but paused at the window. The ambulance doors closed. Red lights painted the buildings as it pulled away. "Mom." "Yeah, baby." "That guy. Victor Hale. He's the one who owns half the new buildings downtown, right?" Sarah joined him at the window. "The very same." "What about him?" "Just thinking." He looked surprised, like he'd never been on the ground before. Maybe he hadn't. Liam picked up his tennis ball from the counter, rolling it between his palms. The felt was worn smooth in places. The yellow faded to cream. His grandfather had given it to him the summer before he passed. Said every great player started with 1 ball and a wall. "You think he'll be okay?" Sarah asked. "He has to be. I didn't throw that hard." Sarah ruffled his hair. "Go eat. And then you're grounded for a week. Heroics don't get you out of chores." Liam grinned, the expression making him look his age for the first time that night. "Worth it." Across town, Victor Hale lay in a private hospital room that cost more per night than most people made in a month. Machines beeped softly. His assistant hovered nearby, tablet in hand. "The board wants a statement by morning. Stock's already down 3% on the news. Tell them I'm alive." "That's the statement." "Sir, there are complications. The attackers got away with your briefcase. Contracts. The retail development package." Victor closed his eyes. The pain medication made everything soft at the edges. "They can be replaced." "There's more. Security footage from the alley. It's unusual." "Show me." His assistant held up the tablet. Grainy footage but clear enough. The attack. The fall. And then, the impossible throw from the fire escape. The lead attackers collapse. The scatter. Who is that kid? We're looking into it. Name's Liam Carter. Lives in the building across from the alley. Mother works at Dino's diner. No father on record. Victor watched the footage loop 3 times. The precision of it. The absolute confidence in the throw. Find him, Victor said finally. I want to thank him personally. Sir, with all due respect, you need rest. The police dash. Can wait. That boy saved my life with a tennis ball. I want to know how. In the quiet of the hospital room, Victor Hale stared at the ceiling. For the first time in years, his mind wasn't calculating profit margins or acquisition strategies. It was replaying that perfect throw. The way the ball had arced through the darkness like it had a mind of its own. He had built an empire on precision, on knowing exactly where to strike, when to pull back. But this was something different. This was instinct refined to art. Back in the Northside apartment, Liam finished his reheated spaghetti and carried his ball to the living room. The television flickered with news coverage. His throw, caught from multiple angles by security cameras and phone videos. Local boy saves tech titan with impossible throw. They kept replaying it in slow motion. The ball leaving his hand. A spin. The impact. Sarah watched from the kitchen doorway, arms crossed. You're famous now, kiddo. Does that mean no chores? It means double chores. And we're getting you a new ball. That one's about to be evidence. Liam looked at the tennis ball in his hand. The one his grandfather had given him. The one that had just saved a billionaire's life. Nah, he said softly. This one's perfect. Outside, the city kept moving. Sirens faded into the distance. The alley where Victor Hale had nearly died was already being cleaned, the blood washed away by morning maintenance crews. But something had shifted. A ripple that would grow into a wave. Victor Hale had built his empire on calculated risks. Liam Carter had just shown him what happened when calculation met pure instinct. And somewhere in the space between those two worlds, a new story was beginning. Liam stood at the window, watching the empty alley below. The fire escape still held the faint imprint of his sneakers. He bounced the ball once against the floor, caught it on the rebound. Mom. Yeah. You think rich guys keep their promises? Sarah considered this. The good ones do. Liam nodded, rolling the ball across his knuckles. Then I guess we'll find out. In the hospital, Victor's phone buzzed with incoming messages. Board members, investors, reporters, all of them wanting something. He ignored them all, staring instead at the freeze-frame image of a 10-year-old boy on a fire escape. The boy who had seen clearly in the dark what Victor had missed in the light. Tomorrow would bring questions, investigations, the slow grind of justice trying to catch men who moved through shadows like fish through water. But tonight there was only this moment. This perfect throw captured forever in digital amber. Victor closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he slept without dreaming of numbers. Across the city, Liam Carter practiced his throw against the living room wall. Each impact perfect, each return predictable. He had no idea that the man he'd saved was already making plans. That gratitude, when it came from someone like Victor Hale, tended to reshape entire landscapes. He only knew that tomorrow, the wall would still be there. The ball would still return to his hand. And somewhere out in the city, a man who'd never had to look up before was learning to see the world from ground level. The rhythm of it was comforting, familiar, the sound of precision meeting practice, over and over again. Sarah watched from the kitchen, drying her hands on a dish towel that had seen better days. Her son, the hero of Northside. The boy who could thread a needle with a tennis ball from 23 feet in the dark. The city outside their window kept its own counsel. Secrets buried in cracked concrete and rusted fire escapes. Stories waiting to be told. But for now, there was only the steady rhythm of ball against wall, and the quiet certainty that some throws changed everything. The thump of the tennis ball against the living room wall faded into the background hum of the city as midnight crept closer. Liam finally pocketed his prized possession and headed to bed, the weight of the night's events settling over him like a thin blanket. Sarah lingered at the window a moment longer, watching the alley below where police tape now fluttered in the breeze. Yellow markers dotted the pavement where Victor Hale's blood had pooled. She pulled the curtains closed and clicked off the light, but sleep felt miles away. Across town, the clock on Victor's hospital monitor ticked past 11:52 p.m. The pain medication had worn off enough for the full symphony of agony to play through his body. Cracked ribs, concussion, lacerations that would scar. The doctors had rattled off the list like items on a grocery receipt. He stared at the ceiling tiles, counting the perforations to keep his mind from spiraling. His phone, recovered from the alley and now charging on the bedside table, buzzed incessantly. Messages from the board. From investors. From lawyers already circling like sharks scenting blood in the water. The alley replayed in his mind on an endless loop. The initial surprise. The calculated dismissal of danger. Then the first impact that had driven the air from his lungs. He'd built his empire on reading rooms, on knowing when to push and when to fold. But those three men hadn't been playing his game. In the Northside alley, the scene was far from over. The lead attacker, the one Liam's throw had dropped, groaned on the ground as his partners dragged him into the shadows. Blood streamed from his ruined eye socket, mixing with the grime on the pavement. They dumped Victor's briefcase into a rusted trash barrel and doused the contents with lighter fluid. Flames leaped up, consuming contracts worth hundreds of millions in seconds. The orange glow painted the brick walls as the men melted into the night. Victor remembered the heat of those flames on his face as he crawled across the concrete. Blood pooled beneath him, warm and sticky. His designer shirt clung to his skin like a second ruined layer. The lead attacker, recovering faster than expected despite the injury, loomed over him with a switchblade that caught the firelight. "This is what happens when you walk where you don't belong," the man snarled, voice muffled behind his mask. The knife descended in a slow arc that Victor's battered body couldn't hope to dodge. Time fractured in that moment. Victor's life didn't flash before his eyes. Instead he saw spreadsheets, acquisition models, the retail empire he'd been minutes from securing. All of it slipping away in this forgotten corner of the city he'd planned to gentrify. Then the tennis ball came out of nowhere. It struck with the precision of a sniper's round, directly into the attacker's good eye. The man dropped the knife, both hands flying to his face as he screamed. The sound was inhuman, raw with shock and pain. His partners froze for a crucial second, bats forgotten. Porch lights exploded on like a chain reaction. First the building across from Liam's, then the next, and the next. Windows flew open up and down the block. "I see them. 3 guys, one's down. Police are on their way, I called it in. Get away from that man." The attackers broke and ran, dragging their blinded leader between them. They vanished into the labyrinth of side streets and abandoned lots that made up Northside's underbelly. Sirens wailed closer, red and blue lights already painting the alley walls. By 1 a.m., the ambulance had loaded Victor onto a stretcher. The paramedics worked with practiced efficiency, cutting away his ruined shirt to access the worst of the damage. For lines snaked into his arms. Oxygen mask pressed to his face. The alley had transformed into a crime scene, yellow tape cordoning off the area where his blood still glistened wetly on the pavement. His phone, miraculously intact, had been bagged as evidence but not before the attackers photographed the screen. Contacts, emails, the retail development contracts now burning in that trash barrel. By the time Victor reached the hospital, those images were already circulating in dark corners of the internet. Rival developers placed bids on the leaked information before the ambulance doors even closed. Media trucks descended on the hospital like locusts. Satellite dishes extended skyward. Reporters jostled for position at the emergency room entrance, cameras ready to capture any glimpse of the tech titan brought low. Victor Hale, billionaire CEO of Hale Developments, was brutally assaulted tonight in what police are calling a targeted mugging. The attack comes just hours before a crucial vote on his controversial Northside retail project. Board members are reportedly demanding his immediate resignation, citing security concerns. Inside the VIP wing, Victor drifted in and out of consciousness. The pain was a living thing now, gnawing at his ribs with every breath. Nurses came and went, adjusting drips and checking vitals. His assistant, Marcus, stood guard outside the door, fielding calls and deflecting reporters with practiced corporate speak. By dawn, the worst of the medical crisis had passed. The doctors delivered their prognosis with clinical detachment. 3 cracked ribs, mild concussion, lacerations requiring stitches, possible internal bleeding that had thankfully resolved itself. He'd live. He'd walk. But the psychological damage, they warned, might take longer to heal. Victor signed the discharge papers with a hand that still trembled slightly. The pen felt foreign in his grip, like it belonged to someone else's life. Marcus hovered nearby, tablet in hand, ready to orchestrate the return to normalcy. "The board wants you at the office by noon," Marcus said carefully. "Damage control. Stocks down 8% and falling." Victor didn't respond immediately. He was staring at the security footage playing on silent loop on the hospital television. The impossible throw. Perfect impact. The way the attackers scattered like leaves in a storm. "That kid," Victor said finally. "The one who threw the ball. You found him. Liam Carter, 10 years old. Lives in the building across from the alley with his mother, Sarah Carter. She works at Dino's Diner on 5th. No father listed. Kid's got quite the arm from what the neighbors say. Bring them here. Sir, you're being discharged. The press dash. Can wait." Victor's voice carried the steel that had built his empire. "That boy saved my life with a tennis ball. I want to thank him personally." Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "I'll make the arrangements." Sarah Carter arrived at the hospital just after 7 a.m., still wearing her diner uniform under her coat. Liam trailed behind her, eyes wide at the marble floors and hushed corridors of the VIP wing. He'd changed into his least-worn jeans and a clean hoodie, but the tennis ball was still clutched in his right hand like a talisman. Victor watched them enter through the one-way glass of his room. The woman moved with the tired grace of someone who'd been on her feet since 4 a.m. The boy walked like he was measuring distances, eyes cataloging exits and angles without seeming to try. "They're here," Marcus announced, opening the door. Sarah entered first, clutching a paper cup of water from the nurse's station. Liam followed, his gaze flicking immediately to the monitors and 4 stands before settling on Victor. "You're the guy from the alley," Liam said matter-of-factly. Victor managed a weak smile. "And you're the kid who took out a grown man with a tennis ball." Liam shrugged, rolling the ball between his palms. 23 feet. 3-mile-an-hour cross breeze. Eye socket's a good target if you account for the orbital bone structure. Sarah elbowed him gently. "Manners, Liam." But Victor was laughing, the sound turning into a cough that made him wince. "You calculated all that in the moment." "Always calculate. Grandpa taught me. Said precision beats power every time." Sarah set the water on the bedside table. "Heard you were getting out today. Thought you might need this. Hospital water tastes like plastic." Victor took the cup, their fingers brushing. Her hands were calloused from years of carrying trays and scrubbing counters. His were manicured, though the nails were broken now from clawing at pavement. "Your son saved my life," he told her directly. "He's a good kid. Does dumb things sometimes, but good." Liam had moved to the window, looking out over the city skyline. "Your buildings are the ones with the blue glass, right? The new ones downtown. Some of them. Cool angles. Good for bounce passes if you ever need to practice." Victor studied the boy's reflection in the glass. There was no fear in him. No awe at the hospital room or the man who'd nearly died. Just that steady assessment, like he was already mapping trajectories through the urban landscape. You play baseball? Victor asked. Soccer mostly. Baseball field's been closed since I was 6. But I practice throws anyway. Walls don't care what sport you play. Sarah's expression tightened slightly at the mention of the closed field. Victor caught it, filed it away. I owe you both, he said. More than I can repay with words. Liam turned from the window. You don't owe me anything. Just don't walk alone in alleys anymore. Bad angles for defense. The simplicity of it cracked something open in Victor's chest. Not the physical pain, but something deeper. He'd spent years surrounded by people who calculated every interaction down to the dollar. This kid operated on different math entirely. Marcus cleared his throat from the doorway. Car's ready, sir. Press conference in 40 minutes. Victor nodded but didn't move to leave. Liam. That throw. You've got a gift. Practice. Anyone can do it if they practice enough. Not like that. Not in the dark with lives on the line. Liam considered this, rolling the ball across his knuckles. Grandpa said pressure shows what you're made of. Said most people fold. Some people focus. Your grandfather sounds like a smart man. He was. Liam's voice stayed steady, but Sarah's hand found his shoulder anyway. Victor reached for his wallet, pulled out a business card. Plain white stock. His name and private number embossed in simple black. He held it out to Liam. If you ever need anything at all, call me. Liam took the card, studied it with the same intensity he'd given the city skyline. Cool. But I don't need anything. Mom says we make our own way. Sarah accepted the card when Liam offered it to her instead. We'll keep it safe. Thank you, Mr. Hale. Victor. She tucked the card into her pocket. Come on, Liam. I've got the breakfast shift in an hour. As they turned to leave, Victor called out. The Northside soccer field. The one that's closed. Who owns the land now? Sarah paused at the door. City Council. Been trying to sell it to developers for years. Your company put in a bid last I heard. Victor filed that away too. The pieces were already clicking together in his mind. Gratitude. Opportunity. The perfect intersection of personal debt and business strategy. Liam glanced back once more before they left. Get better at walking, Mr. Hale. The city's got worse alleys than that one. Then they were gone, mother and son disappearing down the corridor that smelled of antiseptic and money. Victor watched the empty doorway for a long moment. Marcus helped him into a wheelchair despite his protests. The board's going to want assurances about your judgment after this. My judgment saved by a 10-year-old with a tennis ball, Victor said dryly. Tell them that. The wheelchair rolled toward the service exit where a car waited away from the press circus. But Victor's mind was already elsewhere. On a closed soccer field in Northside. On a boy who could thread a needle with a throw in the dark. On the way gratitude, when properly directed, could reshape more than just one man's life. The city outside the hospital windows was waking up. Commuters streamed toward downtown. Delivery trucks made their rounds. And somewhere in Northside, a boy with perfect aim was probably already practicing against a brick wall, preparing for whatever came next. Victor Hale had built his empire on calculated risks. But for the first time, he was considering something that defied calculation entirely. A debt that couldn't be repaid with money or contracts. A throw that had changed the trajectory of 2 lives in a single perfect arc. The car pulled away from the curb, merging into traffic. Victor watched the hospital shrink in the rearview mirror. The pain in his ribs was a constant reminder of how close he'd come to losing everything. But the card in Sarah Carter's pocket, the memory of Liam's steady gaze, those were reminders of something else entirely. Possibility. The kind that started with one perfect throw and ended with an entire neighborhood transformed. The car merged into the morning rush, but Victor Hale's thoughts stayed pinned to the hospital corridor he'd just left. The image of Liam Carter rolling that faded tennis ball across his knuckles played on repeat. Precision in motion. The boy had seen angles in the dark that Victor's security team missed in broad daylight. As the city skyline rose ahead, Victor pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. Find everything on Liam Carter and his mother, Northside, and get me the full file on that closed soccer field. I want it by lunch. His assistant's voice crackled through the speaker. Sir, the board meeting can wait. This can't. By the time Victor reached his penthouse office, the files were waiting. Thick folders on the conference table. Digital dossiers glowing on multiple screens. Liam Carter, 10 years old, straight A's in math and science, no disciplinary notes. Sarah Carter, single mother, employee of the month at Dino's Diner 6 times running, spotless record. The soccer field. City-owned, zoned for development, multiple bids pending including one from a subsidiary of his own company. Victor stared at the satellite images of the overgrown pitch. Weeds pushing through cracked turf. Rusted goalposts leaning like tired sentinels. He'd seen the property as just another acquisition. Parcel to flip for retail space. Now he saw something else entirely. His phone buzzed. Security feed from the hospital. Liam and Sarah leaving through a side entrance. The boy paused to tie his shoe, using the moment to scan the parking lot like he was mapping escape routes. Victor zoomed in on the freeze frame. Red hoodie, worn sneakers, and clipped to the zipper, a small metal badge shaped like a fire escape. The alliance began with a knock on his office door 3 days later. Liam arrived alone, Sarah waiting in the lobby with strict instructions to let the boy handle this himself. He stepped into the executive suite like he belonged there, freckled face serious under tousled brown hair. The red hoodie was clean but faded, the fire escape badge catching the light from floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the entire city. You wanted to see me again, Liam said. Not a question. Victor gestured to the conference table where printouts of the alley footage waited. Your throw. I need to understand it. Liam dropped into a chair, spinning the tennis ball he'd brought on one finger. Understand what? Physics. Or why I didn't miss? Both. Victor hit play on the largest screen. The alley footage filled the wall. Slow motion. The ball leaving Liam's hand. A spin. The impact. You hit a moving target in near darkness from 23 feet up. With a tennis ball. 24 feet, actually. Fire escapes higher than it looks. And he wasn't moving much once you were down. Victor paused the video on the frame where the lead attacker's knife glinted. This man. Recognize anything? Liam leaned forward, eyes narrowing. He grabbed Victor's phone from the table without asking, fingers flying across the screen. 32 seconds later he held it up. Side-by-side images. The alley footage zoomed on the attacker's left hand. A distinctive scar across the knuckles. Next to it a council meeting photo. Councilwoman Elena Voss's chief aide. Standing just behind her. Same hand. Same scar. Victor's breath caught. How did you dash? Pattern recognition. Mom says I see things other people miss. The room felt smaller suddenly. Victor had built his empire on data, on seeing connections others overlooked. But this kid operated on a different level entirely. Liam wasn't done. He pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, smoothing it on the table. Hand-drawn diagrams, angles, distances, wind calculations. Your security guy's report said the attackers were random muggers. But look at this. He pointed to a timeline sketched in careful pencil. They waited until your driver circled the block. Knew your route. Knew you'd walk alone. That's not random. Victor's mind raced back to the hospital. The leaked contracts. The timing of the attack. The way his rivals had pounced within hours. You think this was orchestrated? I know it was. Liam's voice stayed matter-of-fact. Question is why? And by who? The flashback hit Liam without warning, the way memories sometimes did when patterns aligned. He was 7 again, standing in the schoolyard watching Tommy Jenkins collect protection money from smaller kids. Tommy's operation was simple. Pay up or get pushed down. Liam had watched for 3 days, mapping patterns. Who paid? Who didn't? When Tommy made his rounds. On the 4th day, he'd brought an apple. Not for eating. For physics. Tommy had cornered little Mia Chan by the swings, demanding her lunch money. Liam stepped up quietly, apple balanced on his palm. Leave her alone. Tommy laughed. Or what, shrimp? Liam threw. Not hard, just precise. The apple struck Tommy's wrist at exactly the right angle to make his fingers go numb. The collected money spilled across the playground. By the time teachers arrived, Tommy was cradling his hand and 20 kids were telling the same story. The principal called Sarah at work. She'd arrived still wearing her diner apron, ready to apologize for her son's behavior. Instead, she found the principal thanking her. Tommy's parents were influential donors. The school had been looking the other way for months. Liam's throw had forced their hand. You saved more than Mia's lunch money, the principal had told Sarah. You saved my job. The board was pressuring me to ignore it. Sarah had kept her job. Liam had earned a reputation. And the schoolyard changed overnight. Back in Victor's office, the memory faded as quickly as it came. Liam shook his head slightly, refocusing. Your turn, he said. What do you know about Councilwoman Voss? Victor hesitated. The political waters were treacherous. But the boy had just connected dots that his entire security team missed. She's blocking my Northside development. Says it's about community preservation. But her campaign donations tell a different story. Liam nodded like this confirmed something. The soccer field. She wants it for retail too. But not your retail. He pulled out another paper. This one a printout from the city planning website. Voss's aide's name listed as the contact for an alternative development proposal. Submitted the same week Victor's bid went public. Victor's pieces were clicking together now. The attack. The leaked contracts. Timing. Someone wanted him discredited. Out of the picture. How do we prove it, he asked. Liam's answer was immediate. We go to the source. The field. At night. When nobody's watching. Victor started to protest. Security protocols. Legal channels. But Liam was already moving, studying the satellite images on the table. There's a maintenance shed. Back corner. Lock looks old. Mom has a key that fits most city properties. From when she cleaned the rec center before it closed. Sarah's voice came from the doorway. She'd entered quietly, carrying 2 cups of coffee from the executive kitchen. I heard that. Liam didn't look guilty. You said it was for emergencies. This qualifies, Victor said before Sarah could object. But we do it my way. 1 scout. Midnight. No risks. Sarah set the coffee down, her expression unreadable. The key's in my purse. But if anything happens to my son Dash. Nothing will, Victor promised. I'll have security. The best. Liam was already sketching entry points on a napkin. Security's the problem. They report to your board. We need to move quiet. The plan formed quickly. Sarah's key for access. Liam's knowledge of the field's layout from years of sneaking in to practice. Victor's resources for backup that wouldn't ask questions. By evening, they stood in the shadow of the abandoned rec center. The soccer field stretched before them like a forgotten battlefield. Moonlight silvered the weeds pushing through the turf. The maintenance shed squatted in the far corner, padlock rusted but intact. Sarah handed Liam the key. In and out. 10 minutes. Victor watched the boy work the lock with the same precision he'd shown in the alley. Blick. The door swung open on protesting hinges. Inside smelled of old grass seed and motor oil. Liam's flashlight beam swept the space. Tools hanging on pegboards. Shelves of forgotten equipment. And in the back corner, a metal filing cabinet that looked newer than everything else. Bingo, Liam whispered. The drawers opened easily. Inside blueprints. Not for soccer fields. 4 retail complexes. Voss's name stamped on every page. And beneath them a ledger. Handwritten entries. Payments. The same week as Victor's attack. Victor photographed everything with his phone, hands steady despite the implications. This wasn't just opposition. This was sabotage. They were backing out when headlights swept the field. 2 vehicles. Not marked. Moving fast. Time to go, Victor said. They slipped out the back, melting into the overgrown perimeter. The vehicles stopped at the shed. Doors opened. 3 men emerged. One limped slightly. The same build as the alley attacker. Liam's whisper carried the weight of certainty. Your deals didn't vanish. They were hunted. They watched from the shadows as the men entered the shed. Lights flicked on inside. Voices carried on the night air. Where's the backup drive? Relax. Hale's out of the picture. Kid probably scared him straight to the suburbs. Laughter. Then the sound of drawers being rifled. Victor felt the pieces lock into place. The attack hadn't been about money. It had been about removal. Get him out of Northside. Clear the way for Voss's development. Liam tugged his sleeve. We have enough. Let's move. They circled wide, using the overgrown edges for cover. Sarah waited by the fence opening, face pale in the moonlight. Get what you needed. More than enough, Victor said. As they slipped back into the city streets, the weight of what they'd uncovered settled over them. This wasn't just about a mugging anymore. This was about power. About who got to decide what Northside became. Liam walked between them, tennis ball spinning on his finger. The fire escape badge caught the streetlights as they passed. You know they're not going to stop, he said quietly. I know. Good. Because neither are we. Sarah's hand found Victor's arm. What happens now? Now, Victor said, we play their game better than they do. The city around them kept its nighttime rhythm. Delivery trucks, late shift workers, the occasional siren wailing in the distance. But for the 3 figures walking away from the abandoned field, everything had changed. Victor Hale had come to Northside looking for gratitude. He'd found something far more valuable. An ally who saw the board before the pieces moved. The Midnight Scout had revealed more than documents. It had forged the first link in a chain that would either save Northside or break it entirely. Liam glanced back once at the field. The shed lights winked out. The vehicles pulled away. They're scared, he said. How can you tell? Because they came back for the evidence. Means they know someone might find it. Victor considered this. The boy was right. The game had levels he hadn't anticipated. Sarah unlocked her car, the old sedan looking impossibly small against the city's vast machinery. Home. Both of you. We plan tomorrow. Liam climbed into the back seat, already pulling out his notebook. Pages filled with diagrams and calculations. Angles of exposure. Timelines. Connections. Victor paused before getting in. That throw in the alley. You've been practicing for something bigger than schoolyard justice. Liam met his eyes in the rearview mirror. Grandpa said every throw matters. Some just matter more than others. The car pulled away from the curb, merging into traffic. Behind them, the soccer field faded into darkness. But the blueprints in Victor's phone burned bright. Councilwoman Voss thought she'd cleared the board. She had no idea the real player had just entered the game. And he threw with perfect precision. The old sedan rolled to a stop 3 blocks from Sarah's building, engine ticking as it cooled. Streetlights cast long shadows across cracked sidewalks, the kind of Northside night where every rustle carried weight. Victor Hale sat in the passenger seat, city blueprints spread across his lap like battle plans. Liam was already out, tennis balls spinning idly as he scanned the alley behind their apartment. Patrol route starts in 4 minutes, Liam said, voice low. Guard change at the field gate. We go through the east fence cut I found last summer. Sarah locked the car, key ring jangling softly. The maintenance key hung heavy on it, a relic from her cleaning days at the rec center. 10 minutes inside. No more. Victor nodded, the ache in his ribs a dull reminder of why they were here. The Midnight Scout had given them pieces. Tonight they needed the whole puzzle. They moved like shadows, Liam leading with the confidence of someone who'd mapped every inch of this territory. The east fence had a section pried loose years ago by kids sneaking in for late-night games. It opened silently under Liam's practiced hands. The soccer field stretched before them, moonlight turning the overgrown turf silver. The maintenance shed loomed in the distance, but Liam veered left toward the irrigation control box half buried near the penalty line. "Not the shed," he whispered. "Too obvious. They moved the real stuff after we hit it last time." Sarah's key fit the irrigation panel perfectly. The metal door swung open on well-oiled hinges that surprised Victor. Someone had been maintaining this recently. Inside was a narrow space crammed with pipes and valves. Liam's flashlight beam danced across the walls until it caught on a false panel behind the main water cutoff. He pried it loose with a screwdriver from his hoodie pocket. The cache was smaller than expected. A waterproof case bolted to the concrete. Inside, 4 sleek hard drives and a digital recorder. Liam's fingers worked quickly, transferring everything to the encrypted drive Victor had brought. 20 months of data, Liam murmured, reading the labels. Sabotage timeline starts right after your first bid went public. Victor recognized the handwriting on the drive labels. Clean, precise block letters. The same style as memos he'd received from his own project manager. Really? Coach Riley, who'd volunteered to help revitalize the field 6 months ago. The one who'd brought new balls and cleats. Who knew every kid's name and their parents' work schedules. The realization hit like ice water. He played us from the start. Liam was already closing the panel when the first siren split the night. Not police. Private security. The kind that didn't ask questions. "Go!" Sarah hissed. They scrambled out, Liam securing the panel with practiced efficiency. The irrigation box locked behind them just as floodlights swept the field. 2 SUVs screeched through the main gate, tires spitting gravel. "Utility ducts," Liam said, already moving. "Old maintenance tunnels run under the bleachers." Victor followed, Sarah close behind. The ducts were narrower than expected, concrete tubes barely wide enough for an adult. Liam led them through a maze he'd clearly memorized. His small size an advantage as he spider-crawled ahead. Behind them voices echoed. "Check the irrigation box. They were here. Tracks lead east." Spread out. The pursuit was methodical. Professional. These weren't random guards. They knew the field. Knew its secrets. Liam paused at a junction, flashlight beam flickering between 3 possible routes. Left goes to the locker rooms. Right dead ends at the old pump station. Center. He didn't finish. A metal grate slammed shut behind them, the sound reverberating through the tunnels. Blast door. Emergency lockdown protocol. Someone had triggered it remotely. Victor's heart hammered. The tunnel ahead narrowed to a crawl space. Behind them, footsteps approached fast. "Center it is," Liam decided. "But we have to move." They crawled single file, Liam first, then Sarah, Victor bringing up the rear. The space was tight enough that his shoulders scraped concrete. Dust filled his lungs. The hard drives in Liam's backpack pressed against Victor's chest as they moved. "They're in the ducts," a voice crackled over radio static. "Lockdown holding. Flush them toward the pump station." Liam's flashlight died suddenly. Darkness swallowed them. "Battery," he whispered. "Keep moving. I know this stretch blind." They inched forward by feel, the tunnel growing warmer as they neared the pump station. Victor's mind raced through scenarios. Trap. No weapons. No backup. The drives were all that mattered now. Light appeared ahead. Faint at first, then growing. The pump station access hatch. Liam reached it first, fingers working the manual release. The hatch opened with a groan that echoed like thunder. They spilled into the pump room, a cavernous space filled with ancient machinery. Moonlight filtered through grates high above. Exit signs glowed red in the distance. "Stairs to the surface," Sarah said, pointing. Old spectator en trance. They were halfway across when the blast door behind them exploded open. 3 figures in tactical gear. Flashlights cutting through the darkness like knives. Freeze. Hands where we can see them. Liam didn't hesitate. He grabbed a loose pipe from the floor and hurled it toward the control panel on the far wall. Metal connected with plastic in a shower of sparks. Emergency lights flared red. Sprinklers burst to life overhead. Chaos erupted. The guards shielded their eyes from the sudden deluge. Victor grabbed Sarah's hand and ran. They hit the stairs running, water cascading down the steps. Liam was already at the top, pushing against the exit door. Gave way to the cool night air. The spectator entrance opened onto the abandoned parking lot. Sarah's car waited where they'd left it, hidden behind a dumpster. They piled in, Victor in back this time, Liam riding shotgun with a backpack clutched to his chest. Sarah started the engine as headlights swept the lot. The SUVs were already moving, cutting off their exit. "Hold on," she said. The old sedan lurched forward, tires squealing as she took the service road that ran parallel to the field. The pursuing vehicles followed, but Sarah knew these streets. She cut through alleys barely wide enough for the car, bottoming out on potholes but never slowing. Liam was already working, laptop balanced on his knees despite the wild ride. Encrypting the drives. They'll try to remote wipe if they have the codes. Victor watched the boy work with the same precision he'd shown in the alley. Fingers flying across keys. Commands executed without hesitation. "Done," Liam announced as they hit the main road. Physical connection only now. They can't touch the data. Sarah took a circuitous route home, doubling back twice to lose any tail. By the time they pulled into the underground parking of her building, the adrenaline was crashing. Her apartment was exactly as Victor remembered from the hospital photos. Compact but clean. Living room barely big enough for the couch and television. Kitchen table already set up as mission control. Liam had the drives connected within minutes. Files cascaded across the screen. Spreadsheets, audio files, video logs. 20 months of meticulous sabotage. Victor scrolled through the timeline. Equipment orders that never arrived. Permits mysteriously delayed. Anonymous complaints filed with city inspectors. All traceable to shell companies that led back to Voss's campaign fund. But it was the audio that stopped him cold. He clicked the most recent file. Voss's voice, clear and cold. Hale's pitch dies at dawn. Make sure the investors see the field as a lost cause. Riley, your point on this. The kids practice tomorrow. Perfect timing. Riley's response was immediate. Understood. I'll handle the blackout. The rest follows. Victor paused the recording. The room felt suddenly smaller. He was my right hand, Victor said, voice hollow. Riley coordinated the youth program. I trusted him with the kids. Sarah poured coffee with shaking hands. How deep does this go? Deep enough to kill for, Liam answered, already cross-referencing the kickback spreadsheets. Foreign investors. Bribes to 3 council members. Your attack was just the opening move. Victor stared at the screen. The web was more extensive than he'd imagined. Riley hadn't just been a coach. He'd been the architect, mapping security rotations, identifying weak points, feeding information to Voss's people for months. The midnight raid we just survived, Victor said slowly. That was cleanup. They knew we'd come back. Liam nodded. They triggered the blast door remotely. Had the ducks mapped. Professional. Sarah sank onto the couch. What do we do with this? We use it, Victor said. The corporate predator was fully awake now. But carefully. Voss has layers of protection. We need more than data. We need testimony. Liam was already pulling up Riley's personnel file. He's got a storage unit. North end of the field. Hidden behind the equipment shed. Bet that's where the physical evidence is. Victor considered. Another risk. But the drives gave them leverage now. Insurance. Tomorrow, he decided. We hit the storage unit at dawn. Before they can move anything. Sarah started to protest, but Liam cut her off. Mom, they already know we're in the game. Hiding won't help. We finish this. The boy who could calculate wind resistance in his head was calculating something bigger now. The cost of justice. The weight of truth. Victor watched him work, the red hoodie pushed up to his elbows, freckled face lit by the laptop glow. This was the alliance he'd never known he needed. A 10-year-old who saw patterns in chaos. A single mother who'd kept a key for emergencies and now held the key to an entire conspiracy. Outside, the city kept its nighttime vigil. Sirens in the distance. The occasional car passing below. But inside the compact flat, 3 people were rewriting the rules of Northside's future. Riley's web had been carefully spun over 20 months. But one perfect throw had started its unraveling. And now they held the threads. Victor saved the audio file separately. Labeled it insurance. Tomorrow would bring confrontation. Riley would know they'd been in the system. The storage unit would either confirm everything or expose the final layer. Either way, the game was moving into its endgame. Liam closed the laptop, the screen's glow fading from his face. Get some sleep. Dawn's in 5 hours. Sarah started pulling blankets from the closet. The couch would be Victor's bed tonight. No penthouse suites. No security details. Just the 3 of them against a machine that had crushed bigger threats. Victor accepted the blanket with gratitude he couldn't voice. The ache in his ribs had dulled to a background throb. The real pain was in the betrayal. Really. The man who'd shaken his hand and promised to build something good for the kids. He was my right hand, Victor repeated quietly. Liam paused in the hallway. Then tomorrow we cut it off. The apartment settled into uneasy quiet. The drives sat on the kitchen table like sleeping bombs. Outside, Northside kept its secrets. But inside, plans were forming. Dawn would bring light to the shadows. And the web, so carefully constructed, would finally start to tear. The first rays of dawn crept through Sarah's thin curtains, painting the compact flat in muted gold. Victor Hale had barely slept, the couch too short for his frame, the hard drives on the kitchen table humming like live wires. Liam was already up, red hoodie zipped, tennis ball spinning in slow arcs as he reviewed printouts spread across the floor. Sarah moved between coffee pot and laptop, her diner shift forgotten in the face of what came next. Victor's phone buzzed with an alert from his legal team. The lawsuit was filed at 5:47 a.m. civil action against councilwoman Elena Voss, her aide, and 3 shell companies. Breach of fiduciary duty. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Sabotage of public property. The complaint ran 47 pages, every claim backed by the drives they'd pulled from the irrigation cache. By 7 a.m. the press had the story. Victor Hale accuses councilwoman of assault cover-up. Tech titan claims paranoia in Northside land grab. Sources close to Hale describe the billionaire as increasingly isolated, following his alley attack. Victor muted the television. The headlines were predictable. Voss's machine was already spinning the narrative. He'd expected nothing less. The threat started small. An email to Victor's assistant. Drop the suit or the kid pays. Another to Sarah's diner boss. Asterisk, your waitress is spreading lies. Fire her or face health code violations. Asterisk. By noon, Victor's sedan sat in the underground garage, driver's side door etched with a single word in deep scratches. Quit. Sarah found the rock at dusk. It crashed through her kitchen window while Liam practiced free kicks against the living room wall. Glass exploded across the linoleum. The rock landed with a thud, wrapped in paper. Next time it's the boy. Liam read the note without flinching. They're scared, he said, echoing his words from the field. Scared people make mistakes. Victor hired private security that night. 2 ex-military guards outside the apartment. 3rd in the hallway. But the real protection was the evidence. Copies of the drives uploaded to 3 separate cloud servers. Physical backups in a safe deposit box downtown. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. City Council chambers. Public testimony. No cameras inside, but the lobby would be a circus. Victor spent the days preparing. His legal team built models of the field's security grid. Timelines of Riley's movements. Financial trails that looped through offshore accounts like a maze. Liam sat in on every meeting, asking questions that made seasoned attorneys pause. "You're 10, one lawyer said finally. "Old enough to hit a target at 24 feet in the dark," Liam replied. "Your point." The council chamber smelled of polished wood and tension. Rows of seats filled with reporters, Northside residents, Voss's supporters in tailored suits. The council members sat elevated behind a curved dais, faces carefully neutral. Voss entered last, power suit immaculate, smile practiced. Her aide hovered at her elbow, scar hidden beneath a bandage that hadn't been there before. Victor took the stand first. Measured. Controlled. He laid out the attack, the sabotage, the drives. The audio of Voss's voice played through the chamber's speakers. Asterisk Hale's pitch dies at dawn. Asterisk. Gasps rippled through the room. Voss's expression never wavered. Then it was Liam's turn. He walked to the witness stand in his red hoodie and worn sneakers, fire escape badge catching the overhead lights. The bailiff swore him in. The room fell silent. "State your name and age for the record." Liam Carter. 10 years old. Voss's counsel, a shark in a three-piece suit, started strong. "Mr. Carter, you're a 5th grader, correct? No formal training in security analysis or forensic accounting." "I read a lot," Liam said calmly. Snickers from Voss's side. The lawyer pressed. "You expect this counsel to believe a child decoded a conspiracy that eluded professional investigators?" Liam didn't rise to the bait. He turned to the large screen behind him where Victor's team had projected the field's security grid. "This is the patrol schedule from the night we accessed the irrigation cache," he began, voice steady. "Guard A rotates every 30 minutes. Guard B every 45. There's a 12-minute window where the east fence is uncovered." He used a laser pointer with the precision of a surgeon. Riley knew this. He coached practice from 4-2. Watched the guards. Timed them. On the night of the blackout, he delayed the start by 7 minutes. That pushed Guard A's rotation into the gap. The council members leaned forward. Even Voss's allies looked unsettled. The lawyer tried again. "You're suggesting a youth soccer coach orchestrated all this?" "I'm showing you the pattern." Liam clicked to the next slide. Financial transfers. 10 payments from Voss's campaign fund to Riley's account. Each one the day after a sabotage event. Arson at the storage shed. Flooded turf. The blackout. He clicked again. Riley's storage unit inventory. Photos of equipment with serial numbers matching city property. "Riley kept trophies," Liam said simply. "People who lie like patterns. They can't help it." The lawyer shifted tactics. "You're a dropout risk yourself, aren't you? Multiple absences last semester." Sarah tensed in the gallery. Victor placed a hand on her arm. Liam didn't blink. "I missed 9 days. 8 for my mom's court date when the diner tried to fire her. 1 for Grandpa's funeral. Absences don't erase facts." The chamber murmured. Voss's counsel sensed blood in the water. "So we're to trust the testimony of a child who can't even attend school regularly?" Liam stood. "Want me to show you?" Before anyone could object, he'd moved to the open space in front of the dais. A mock security grid had been set up for demonstrations. Orange cones marked patrol points. Blue tape outlined the field. "Riley's breach," Liam announced. He picked up a tennis ball from the evidence table. He entered here. Avoided Guard A by waiting for the rotation lag. He tossed the ball underhand. It bounced once, rolled between 2 cones, and stopped exactly at the taped irrigation box. 7 seconds from entry to access. Guard B never saw him. The lawyer opened his mouth, but Liam wasn't finished. Blackout night. He cut power from the maintenance shed. used the kids' practice as cover. Another toss. The ball arced high, landing in a bucket marked generator. 4 seconds to trigger. Then he vanished into the ducts we used. The council members were transfixed. Even the court reporter had stopped typing. Voss finally spoke, voice smooth as silk. A parlor trick. The boys coached. Hale's desperate. Liam turned to her directly. You said the pitch dies at dawn. Didn't. 'Cause we were there. We have the drives. The audio. The patterns don't lie. He returned to the stand, sitting with the same calm he'd shown since entering. No further questions, Voss's counsel muttered. The jury, 12 citizens selected for impartiality, filed out at 3:12 p.m. The chamber emptied slowly. Reporters swarmed Victor outside. Any comment on the dropout allegations? Victor's response was immediate. The only dropout here is truth from Voss's campaign. Sarah found Liam in the hallway, hugging him fiercely. You were brilliant. I just showed them what was there. The deliberation stretched into the night. 21 hours. No food. No updates. Victor paced the courthouse steps while Sarah and Liam waited in a side room, playing cards on the floor. At 12:07 p.m. the next day, the jury returned. On count 1, conspiracy to commit fraud, guilty. Count 2, sabotage of public property, guilty. Count 3, bribery of public officials, guilty. The gavel fell like thunder. Voss stood frozen as bailiffs moved in. Her aide was already being cuffed in the gallery. Damages were assessed at $380 million, the largest civil penalty in city history. Victor didn't celebrate. He found Liam in the side room, packing his notebook. The money, Victor said. It's yours as much as mine. Liam shook his head. Build the pitch. The real one. With lights that don't fail. Goals that don't rust. And a program for kids who see patterns. Victor extended his hand. Co-originator. Your name on the design. Your rules for who plays. Liam took the hand, grip firm. Fair play only. No politics. The press conference was held on the field itself 2 days later. The weeds had been cleared. Construction equipment stood ready. Victor stood at a podium with Liam beside him, both in work boots. Today we break ground on the Liam Carter pitch, Victor announced. Funded by the Voss settlement. Open to every Northside kid. No fees. No favoritism. He handed Liam the ceremonial shovel. The boy drove it into the earth with the same precision he brought to everything. Cameras flashed. Sarah watched from the sideline, eyes shining. The design plans were unveiled on massive boards. Liam's sketches integrated with professional renderings. Solar-powered lights. Retractable goals. A STEM lab in the clubhouse where kids could learn the physics behind their throws. Riley's storage unit had yielded the final pieces. Handwritten notes. Photos of the sabotage in progress. A confession recorded under oath after his arrest. He'd taken the coaching job to get close. To map weaknesses. To feed Voss the intel she needed. Victor had visited him once in holding. Riley wouldn't meet his eyes. I needed the money, was all he'd say. The pitch rose quickly. Northside kids helped lay the turf. Local businesses donated materials. The community that Voss had tried to fracture rebuilt stronger. Liam ran the first practice himself. 20 kids in mismatched cleats. He demonstrated free kicks with the same tennis ball that started everything. Precision over power, he told them. See the angle before you kick. Victor watched from the sideline, no longer the outsider. Sarah handed him a bottle of water. You kept your promise, she said. We kept ours. The sun set over the new field, floodlights flickering on one by one. The Liam Carter pitch glowed like a promise kept. In the clubhouse, the fellowship program launched quietly. $380 million seeded into trusts, scholarships, mentorships, coding camps, all named after the kids who'd play here. Liam's name was on the cornerstone. Co-originator. 10. The council crucible had forged something unbreakable. Not just a field but a future. And somewhere in the city, a boy with perfect aim practiced against a brick wall, knowing every throw mattered. Because some calculations changed everything. The sun hung low over the Liam Carter pitch, casting long shadows across the fresh turf that smelled of possibility and cut grass. Construction crews had packed up for the day, leaving behind the skeleton of what would become locker rooms and a clubhouse. Liam stood at the penalty spot, rolling his tennis ball between his palms, watching the last truck rumble away. Sarah leaned against the temporary fence, arms crossed, while Victor reviewed final blueprints on a tablet. The settlement money was flowing. Permits approved. The community had turned out in force to volunteer. But Northside knew better than to celebrate too early. The news broke during evening practice. Voss sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Her assets frozen pending appeals. The shell companies dissolved. Her aide took a plea for 5. Riley, facing additional charges from the storage unit evidence, drew 7. Victor muted the television in the makeshift site office. It's over. Liam didn't look convinced. Prison doesn't stop money. Or grudges. Sarah's phone buzzed with an alert from the security firm. Motion sensors at the storage shed. The one that had survived the earlier arson. They arrived to flames. Mercenaries moved like ghosts in the darkness. Black tactical gear. No insignia. The storage shed erupted in a whoosh of accelerant-fueled fire. Blueprints, spare equipment, the backup generators. All of it consumed in minutes. Victor's security team scrambled, but the mercs were professionals. They vanished before the first fire truck arrived, leaving only scorched earth and a message spray-painted on the remaining wall. Pitch dies. Liam walked the perimeter at dawn, tennis ball tucked in his pocket. The Trination cloud backups he'd set up weeks ago, servers in Canada, Ireland, Singapore, remained untouched. Every file, every blueprint, every financial record. Intact. Smart kid, Victor said, joining him. They hit the physical, missed the digital. Patterns, Liam replied. They always go for what's visible. Sarah kicked at the ashes. Insurance will cover the shed. But the message. The message was clear. Voss might be behind bars, but her network wasn't dismantled. Not completely. The jail call came 2 days later. Victor played it on speaker in the site office. Voss's voice crackled through the prison line, cold despite the static. You think locking me up ends this? The game's not finished. Northside will burn before you pour one foundation. The line went dead. The warden confirmed it was her. No visitors. No outside contact. But someone was listening. Victor stared at the phone. She's coordinating from inside. Liam was already pulling up prison visitor logs on his laptop. Not visitors. Commissary deposits. Coded amounts. She's using the system. Carapace. We need to accelerate. Get the pitch operational before they hit again. The pact was inked that afternoon amid the storage shed ruins. Victor spread a tarp over the scorched ground. Blueprints unrolled like a battle standard. Liam produced a marker, Sarah legal pad. No lawyers. No fanfare. Co-leads, Victor said. You, me, Sarah. Decisions by consensus. Fair play sports only, Liam added. No corporate sponsors. No politics. Community runs the programs. Sarah wrote the terms in careful script. Revenue from the fellowship investments would fund operations. Any surplus reinvested into Northside youth initiatives. The pitch would be a non-profit. Independent. They signed with a single pen. Victor Hale. Sarah Carter. Liam Carter, his signature small but precise. The first recruit arrived unannounced the next morning. Tate Rollins. Former night guard at the field. The one who'd rotated into the 12-minute gap Liam had exploited. He'd quit the day after the irrigation breach, citing moral differences. He stood at the site entrance in civilian clothes, carrying a rolled tube of papers. Heard you were rebuilding. Figured you could use these. Victor unrolled the drafts on the hood of his truck. Detailed layouts. Underground utilities. Weak points in the original fencing. Notes in Tate's handwriting marking patrol blind spots. You drew these? Sarah asked. Every shift for 6 months. Riley paid me to log them. Said it was for safety improvements. Tate's jaw tightened. Didn't know it was for sabotage until the blackout. Kids were on the field. Liam studied the drafts with intense focus. You kept copies. Burned the originals with the shed. But I always keep backups. Victor extended his hand. You're hired. Security consultant. Your rules for patrols. Tate shook it. No more gaps. And cameras that actually work. The rebuild began in earnest. Crews worked double shifts. Tate designed overlapping patrol routes with no blind spots. Liam integrated motion sensors tied to the Trination clouds. Any tampering triggered instant uploads and alerts to 3 separate security firms. Sarah coordinated volunteers. Northside mothers brought casseroles. Fathers hauled debris. Kids swept the new turf lines that were laid in precise grids. The turf-breaking ceremony was small but electric. Dawn painted the sky pink as the community gathered at the rec hall site. The old building had been gutted, its foundation reinforced for the clubhouse. Victor arrived in work clothes, no suit, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He grabbed the first wheelbarrow of dirt himself, muscles straining as he dumped it into the waiting truck. Thought billionaires hired people for this, a teenage volunteer joked. Victor wiped sweat from his brow. Some things you do yourself. Liam directed traffic with the authority of a site foreman. That load goes to the east corner. We need fill for the drainage trench. Sarah handed out water bottles. Her diner apron traded for a Carter Pitch t-shirt. The design was simple. A soccer ball arcing over a fire escape. Tate walked the perimeter, radio crackling with updates from his new team. Former military, Northside locals, people who understood the stakes. The foundation poured by noon. Concrete mixers rumbled like thunder. Liam stood at the edge, watching the pour with critical eyes. Levels off by 2 millimeters on the south side, he called. The foreman adjusted without question. Precision mattered. Victor found Sarah during a break, both leaning against the temporary fence. You know this is crazy, she said. A billionaire, a waitress, and a 10-year-old running a sports complex. Crazy works, Victor replied. Look at them. The volunteers moved in coordinated chaos. A grandmother directed parking with military precision. Teenagers laid sod in perfect rows. Younger kids painted goalposts under Tate's supervision. The storage shed ruins had been cleared. In their place, a memorial plaque. Asterisk in memory of what was lost. In honor of what we build. Asterisk. Voss's network struck again that night. Motion alerts at 2:17 a.m. Tate's team responded in under 4 minutes. They caught 2 men cutting the new fence. Professionals again. But Tate's overlapping patrols left no escape routes. The intruders were arrested with wire cutters and gasoline cans. Their phones yielded texts from a burner number traced to the prison's general population wing. Voss's reach was longer than anyone anticipated. But the pitch kept rising. Solar panels installed on the clubhouse roof. Liam's design. The system would power the entire facility and feed excess back to the grid, generating revenue for maintenance. Underground sprinklers with smart sensors. Tate's addition. Any tampering triggered shutdown and alerts. The fellowship program launched quietly. First cohort, 20 Northside kids selected by community vote. Coding. Engineering. Sports management. Liam taught the physics module himself. You don't need perfect aim, he told them, demonstrating with his tennis ball. You need to understand the forces. Gravity, wind, fin. The rest follows. Victor watched from the doorway, pride mixing with something deeper. The boy who'd saved his life was saving others now. Sarah found him there. "You're smiling. Actually smiling. Feels foreign," Victor admitted. "But good." The turf breaking evolved into a community festival as the foundation set. Food trucks, music, kids testing the new goals with battered soccer balls. Tate pulled Victor aside near dusk. "Got a lead on the Mercs. Private contractor out of state. Payment traced to a Voss family trust. The freeze didn't catch everything." Victor nodded. "Let the feds handle it. Our job is here." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fire. The Liam Carter pitch stood half-formed but alive. Floodlights flickered on, solar-powered and steady. Liam stood at center field, tennis ball in hand. He bounced it once. Then launched it toward the goal. It struck the crossbar with a perfect ping and dropped into the net. Sarah cheered. Victor joined in. Tate allowed himself a rare grin. The pact forged in ashes was holding. Voss raged in her cell, but her calls went unanswered. Her network fractured under federal scrutiny. The game she'd started was ending on a field she couldn't touch. Victor hauled another load of dirt as stars emerged overhead. His hands blistered. His back ached. But the weight felt right. Northside was building something unbreakable. One precise throw at a time. The ping of the tennis ball against the crossbar echoed into the Northside night. A clean metallic note that carried over the festival din. Volunteers packed up folding chairs while kids chased fireflies across the fresh turf. The Liam Carter pitch was still half a dream, but the foundation was solid, the lights steady, the community electric. Victor set down his wheelbarrow, sweat cooling on his skin, and watched Liam retrieve the ball with the same unhurried precision he brought to everything. Sarah locked the temporary gate behind the last food truck, her Carter pitch t-shirt glowing under the solar floodlights. They thought the storm had passed. Started with a single clip. Someone in the hearing gallery had recorded Liam's reenactment on a phone. Grainy footage, but the audio was crystal. The boy in the red hoodie moving through the mock security grid like a ghost. The tennis ball bouncing once, rolling between cones, stopping dead at the irrigation mark. 7 seconds. The council chamber silent. Then the bucket shot. 4 seconds to the generator. The lawyer's stunned face. The clip hit social media at 8:03 p.m. Hashtag escape throw trended by 8:17. By midnight it was global. Local kid exposes corrupt politician with tennis ball. 10-year-old's courtroom demo goes viral. Hashtag escape throw breaks 50 million views. Liam woke to his phone buzzing off the nightstand. Sarah's diner co-workers sent screenshots. Victor's assistant forwarded morning show bookings. The clip had been edited into montages set to dramatic music. Slow-motion replays. Side by side with the original alley footage. The throw that saved a billionaire. The throw that toppled a councilwoman. Victor arrived at the apartment with coffee and a tablet full of analytics. "You're a phenomenon," he said, sliding the device across the table. Liam scrolled through the numbers. 127 million views. 2.3 million shares. Comments in 12 languages. "Patterns," he said. "People like justice they can see." The ex-staff came out of the woodwork like a dam breaking. First a junior aide who'd been fired for questioning Voss's donations. Then a city inspector paid to ignore code violations. By noon, 7 former employees stood in the site office, phones out, ready to record statements. They brought emails, bank records, voicemails of Voss threatening their jobs, their families. Victor's legal team scrambled to file amendments. The mass suit ballooned from 3 defendants to 19. Conspiracy charges now included racketeering. The feds took notice. Voss's proxy companies cratered overnight. Stock in her family's real estate trust dropped 79% in pre-market trading. Investors bailed. Board members resigned. The SEC opened an investigation before lunch. Federal agents impounded her luxury cruiser at the marina. The one she'd bragged about in campaign ads. For constituent meetings, she'd claimed. Inside, burner phones, ledgers, a safe full of cash and sequenced bills. The Carter pitch team watched the raid live on the news, gathered around a portable screen in the half-built clubhouse. "They're thorough," Tate observed, arms crossed. His security patrols had tripled since the storage shed fire. Liam was already coding. "We launched the app tonight. While the iron's hot." The Free Kick app was his design. Simple interface. Upload a video of your kick. AI analyzed spin, trajectory, power. Gave feedback in plain language. Tied to charity. Every download triggered $1 to Northside youth programs. Open source. No ads. No data harvesting. Victor had funded the servers. Sarah tested the user flow. Tate stress-tested security. They released it at 6 p.m. Within an hour. 50,000 downloads. By 9 o'clock. 500,000. Midnight, 2.1 million. Kids worldwide filmed themselves in backyards, rooftops, dusty streets. Hashtags multiplied. Hashtag escape throw became hashtag free kick challenge. The app's charity counter ticked past $2 million before dawn. Victor's phone rang off the hook. Morning shows. Documentaries. A sports brand offering 7 figures for endorsement. He routed every query to Liam. "Let the kid decide," he told his assistant. His throw. His rules. Reporters camped outside the pitch gates. Victor met them at the fence, work boots caked in dirt. "Any comment on the viral video?" "Talk to Liam. He's the expert." They found Liam on the turf, demonstrating proper follow-through to a group of volunteers. A reporter shoved a microphone forward. "You're famous now. What's next?" Liam didn't stop coaching. "Next is practice. Then the championship tournament we're hosting in 3 months. Open to any team that plays fair." The honesty disarmed them. The clip of his answer went viral too. Sarah watched from the clubhouse steps, pride and worry warring in her eyes. "He's 10, she said when Victor joined her. "The world's too big." "The world's catching up," Victor replied. "Not the other way around." The honest empire ascended in quiet ways. Victor restructured his company. Northside Division spun off as a non-profit arm. Profits funneled back into community projects. The fellowship program expanded, now funding college for the first cohort of pitch kids. Tate's security firm grew. Former mercs applied, drawn by the no-nonsense reputation. He hired only those with clean records and Northside roots. The app hit 10 million downloads. Charity counter at $12 million. Liam added a feature. Users could dedicate kicks to causes. A girl in Brazil raised funds for her village's flooded field. A boy in Detroit rebuilt his school's gym. Victor started showing up to practices in jeans and Carter pitch gear. No entourage, no cameras. Just a man learning to coach from a 10-year-old who saw angles in everything. The twilight vista came on a Thursday. The clubhouse roof was accessible by a maintenance ladder. Liam led the way, tennis ball in pocket. Sarah followed, carrying a pizza box from the diner. Victor brought up the rear. The city spread below them like a circuit board. They sat on the edge, legs dangling over the half-finished field. Solar lights glowed steady. The urban sprawl stretched to the horizon, Northside's patchwork of lights blending into downtown's towers. Liam opened the pizza. "Extra cheese." Mom's boss gave it free. "Said we earned it." Sarah passed slices. "He also gave me a raise. Said the diners never had this much publicity." Victor took a bite, cheese stringing between slices. The simplicity of it grounded him. No boardrooms, no contracts, just pizza and a view. Below, kids played pickup under the lights. Tate's patrols moved in smooth patterns. The pitch was alive. Victor set his slice down. "I overlooked you," he said quietly to Liam. "That night in the alley. I saw a kid with a ball. Not the person who just saved my life. Not the mind that could unravel a conspiracy." Liam shrugged, but his eyes stayed on the field. "You see what you're looking for. Grandpa said that." I was looking for profit margins. Acquisition targets. Victor's voice carried the weight of confession. You were looking for angles. For people. Sarah nudged Liam. He's trying to say thank you. Properly this time. Liam finally met Victor's gaze. You're here. Hauling dirt. Coaching kids who can't pronounce your last name. That's thanks enough. Victor laughed, the sound echoing off the rooftop. Fair. They ate in companionable silence, watching the city breathe. The app counter on Liam's phone ticked past 15 million downloads. Somewhere a kid in a refugee camp filmed a kick with a taped-up ball. The donation hit the Northside fund. Sarah leaned back on her elbows. Voss's appeal got denied today. 8 years stands. Her cruiser sold at auction, Victor added. Proceeds to the fellowship. Liam stood, brushing crumbs from his hoodie. He pulled the tennis ball from his pocket, rolling it across his knuckles. Patterns, he said. She built her empire on fear. We're building ours on throws. He launched the ball into the night. It arced high over the field, a perfect parabola against the stars. Caught the light from the clubhouse sign. Dropped into the goal with a soft thud. The kids below cheered. They hadn't seen who threw it. Didn't need to. Victor watched the ball settle in the net. You know, I used to think success was measured in zeros. Now I think it's measured in arcs. Sarah smiled. Poetic for a billionaire. Learning from the best. The trio stayed on the roof until the pizza box was empty and the city lights blurred into a constellation of their own making. Below, the Liam Carter pitch pulsed with life. Kids practiced. Volunteers planned. The honest empire grew one precise kick at a time. Hashtag escape throw wasn't just a hashtag anymore. It was a movement. Promise. A throw that started in an alley and ended with a field that belonged to everyone. Victor stood, offering Sarah a hand up. Liam was already at the ladder, tennis ball back in his pocket. Tomorrow? Victor asked. Tomorrow, Liam confirmed. We test the new goals. Tate says they're regulation height. Sarah descended first. Victor followed. Liam last, pausing at the top to look out over the urban glow one more time. The city stretched endless below them. But up here, with pizza grease on his fingers and the weight of a perfect throw in his pocket, the world felt exactly the right size. They climbed down into the light. The hammer of justice had fallen. The empire of honesty was rising. And somewhere in the distance, a kid filmed a free kick, uploaded it, and watched the charity counter tick upward. One throw at a time. The ladder creaked as Liam descended last. His sneakers finding each rung with the same calculated certainty he applied to every throw. The rooftop moment lingered in the air between them. Sarah's cracked voice, Victor's quiet confession, the city lights blurring like unshed tears. They reached the turf in silence, the festival long over, the pitch now a quiet sanctuary under the stars. Tate locked the gate behind them, nodding good night. The trio walked to Sarah's car, the weight of their shared victory settling like a warm blanket. Tomorrow would bring more practices, more apps downloads, more proof that honesty could outrun corruption. But Riley had one breath left. It started with a notification at 3:12 a.m. Victor's phone lit up in the guest room of Sarah's apartment. A video link from an anonymous account. He clicked before fully awake. The clip was edited slickly. Grainy security footage from the storage shed ruins. Liam's voice, distorted but recognizable. Asterisk, pay up or the blueprints go public. Asterisk, a shadowy figure handing over an envelope. Cut to Liam pocketing cash. Text overlay. Hashtag escape throw hero blackmails coach for pitch control. By dawn it was everywhere. Hashtag escape throw fraud trended alongside the original. Morning shows led with it. Has the viral kid hero turned extortionist? The app's charity counter froze as donors paused. Fellowship applications dropped 40% overnight. Brands pulled endorsement offers. Sarah found Liam at the kitchen table, laptop open, eyes red from lack of sleep. It's fake, he said flatly. Deep fake audio. The envelopes from the pizza delivery last week. Wrong angle. Victor paced, phone to his ear with lawyers. Trace the upload. Now. The backlash hit like a storm. Protesters gathered at the pitch gates by noon. Signs. Liam Carter equals Voss 2.0 parents pulled kids from practice. Tate's security held the line, but the damage spread. The free kick app reviews tanked. Asterisk scam. Taking advantage of real heroes. Asterisk. Riley orchestrated it from lockup. Through cell allies, trusted inmates with smuggled burners. He'd pieced together old footage. Audio spliced from Liam's hearing testimony and practice sessions. The envelope clip pulled from a volunteer's social media. Uploaded via proxy server in Eastern Europe. Victor's team confirmed it by evening. But confirmation wasn't rebuttal. The public wanted blood. Liam didn't flinch. He sat in the clubhouse that night, uploading the raw shed video himself. Unedited. Timestamp. The full arson sequence. Riley's voice clear in the background directing the mercs. Asterisk. Make it look like Hale's insurance scam. The kid's the perfect fall guy. Asterisk. He captioned it simply. Asterisk truth doesn't need edits. Hashtag real escape throw asterisk. The rebuttal exploded. Within hours. 80 million views. Forensics experts confirmed authenticity. The deepfake cracks showed under scrutiny. Audio waveforms mismatched, shadow angles wrong. The envelope. Pizza money for volunteers. Receipt scanned and posted. The tide turned brutal. Hashtag Riley exposed overtook the fraud tag. Ex-inmates came forward with stories of Riley's prison boasts. The warden launched an internal probe. Feds stormed the lockup at 2 a.m. Cells tossed. Mattresses flipped. They found the contraband device hidden in a hollowed-out Bible. Riley's ally had passed it during visitation. Cologs. Upload history. Direct links to the fake clip. Riley was dragged to isolation, face pale under fluorescent lights. His endgame lunge had backfired spectacularly. The term stretch came swift. Additional charges. Witness tampering, evidence fabrication, conspiracy from within. For more years tacked on. No parole. His confession during interrogation sealed it. Greed, he admitted, had warped him from the start. Guards found the note later, scrawled on prison stationery and slipped under his cell door. Asterisk greed warped me. Tell the kid I'm sorry. The pitch was never about the kids. Asterisk. Victor received it via the prosecutor. Plain envelope. Riley's handwriting shaky but clear. He stood in the pitch office at dawn, the note in one hand, a lighter in the other. Sarah and Liam watched from the doorway. Certain regrets arrive overdue, Victor said quietly. He flicked the lighter. The paper caught, curling black in the trash bin. Ashes drifted like dark snow. Liam nodded once. Some throws miss on purpose. The downfall was total. Riley's allies flipped for reduced sentences. The prison's smuggling ring dismantled. Voss's remaining network cut ties. Too toxic now. The app surged past 30 million downloads. Charity counter hit $35 million. Fellowship bids tripled as corporations rushed to associate with proven integrity. Victor rerouted every interview request to Liam. The boy handled them with the same calm precision. Blackmail's not my pattern, he told one anchor. Helping is. The pitch thrived in the aftermath. New goals arrived. Regulation height powder-coated white. Liam tested them himself, each free kick striking the net dead center. Tate expanded patrols, adding community watches. Sarah managed the clubhouse kitchen, turning it into a hub for after-school meals. Victor walked the sidelines during evening practice, no longer the outsider. Kids called him Coach V now. He corrected form with the patience he'd once reserved for boardroom negotiations. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Liam approached with a new ball. Regulation soccer, not his old tennis one. Time to upgrade, he said. Victor took it, feeling the weight. Think I can hit the net? Everyone starts somewhere. They kicked back and forth under the lights. Sarah watched from the bench, smiling at the sight. Billionaire and boy, passing with easy rhythm. The traitor's last breath had poisoned the air. But truth had cleared it. The Liam Carter pitch stood stronger. Honest. Unbreakable. Riley rotted in isolation. His note ashes in a bin. The game he'd tried to rig was over. And Northside played on. The ball left Victor's foot with a wobble, slicing wide of the net and rolling to a stop against the sideline. Liam, now 11 but already carrying the quiet authority of someone who'd mapped the world's angles, jogged over without judgment. Knee over the ball, Coach V, follow through like you mean it. He demonstrated, clean contact, the sphere rocketing true, nestling in the corner as if magnetized. Sarah clapped from the bench, her laughter bright against the floodlights. The traitor's ashes were long scattered. The pitch had become sanctuary, classroom, heartbeat. Northside played on, and the three of them walked to the car under a canopy of stars, the night wrapping them in the soft certainty that tomorrow would hold more of the same. Practice, progress, unbreakable motion. 10 years later, the motion had become legend. Carter Pitch HQ rose from the bones of an old riverside warehouse, its brick facade pressure-washed and repointed, windows replaced with triple-pane glass that drank sunlight and gave back none of the summer heat. Inside, the space breathed. Competition-grade turf under a soaring ceiling, recording studios humming with podcast equipment, 3D printers whirring prototypes for adaptive cleats. Murals by local artists wrapped the walls. Liam's original fire escape badge blown up to 20 feet, the tennis ball frozen mid-arc like a comet. The fellowship program had seated 2,800 graduates. Engineers in Nairobi designing low-cost prosthetics. Coders in Manila building open-source health apps. Coaches in Detroit running midnight leagues for at-risk teens. 37 patents filed under the Carter Protocol, an ethical framework Liam had drafted at 16, requiring every innovation to be free for non-profit use within 5 years. The protocol had healed 1.1 million lives worldwide. Water purification kits in refugee camps, solar goalposts powering village clinics, trauma-informed coaching manuals translated into 43 languages. The gala filled the main hall to capacity. Round tables glowed under string lights. Former fellows flew in from every continent. Tate, grey at the temples but still ramrod straight, stood at the entrance in a crisp blazer, greeting arrivals with the same vigilance he'd once aimed at shadows. Sarah, co-originator and now chief operating officer, moved among the guests in a simple navy dress, her diner apron traded for a lanyard that read founder. She paused to hug a young woman from Brazil, the girl whose flooded field fundraiser had started with a single app upload. On stage, Liam, 31, lean, freckles faded but eyes still sharp, adjusted the microphone. The red hoodie was long retired. He wore a charcoal shirt with the Carter Pitch logo small over the heart. The room quieted the moment he stepped into the light. 10 years ago, he began, voice steady. A billionaire got mugged, a waitress worried about rent, and a kid practiced throws against a brick wall. None of us knew the math would add up to this. Laughter rippled. Phones rose to record. We didn't build a field. We built a pattern. See the angle. Adjust the spin. Trust the arc. That's not poetry, it's physics. And it works whether you're kicking a ball or kicking corruption. Applause thundered. Liam gestured to the banner stretched across the back wall. Endurance in motion, 10 years. Sarah joined him, ceremonial scissors gleaming. Victor, emeritus, hair silvered, eyes bright with unshed tears, stood to the side in a wheelchair pushed by Tate. The stroke 2 years prior had slowed his body but not his mind. Sarah's hands trembled only slightly as she cut the ribbon. The banner unfurled, revealing a timeline mural. The alley throw, the courtroom demo, the storage shed ashes, the first turf roll. Victor's tears fell freely now, tracing paths through the laugh lines earned from a decade of coaching kids who called him Grandpa V. The crowd rose in ovation. Liam helped Victor to the stage. The older man gripped the podium, voice gravelly but strong. I overlooked a lot in my first life, he said. Profit over people. Skyscrapers over sidewalks. One throw opened my sight. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Northside. He stepped back. Liam embraced him, careful, fierce. The room erupted again. Later, the gala spilled onto the rooftop. The space had been transformed. Living walls of native plants, solar lanterns strung like constellations, the city skyline a glittering backdrop. Guests mingled with fellows, swapping stories in a dozen accents. Sarah circulated with a tray of mini empanadas, recipe from the Brazilian fellow. Tate stood sentinel near the ladder, ensuring no one over-imbibed near the edge. Liam found Victor at the far corner, overlooking the river. The wheelchair was parked. Victor leaned on the railing, city lights reflecting in his eyes. "Remember this roof?" Victor asked without turning. "Pizza grease and confessions," Liam said, joining him. "Feels like yesterday." Victor's hand found Liam's shoulder. "Your throw didn't fix me instantly. It opened my sight. I see patterns now. In people. In possibility. You gave me that." Liam's throat worked. "You gave me a field. Future. We're even." Below, a new group of kids, freshman fellows, tested the rooftop putting green Liam had installed for physics demos. One girl, maybe 12, lined up a putt with intense focus. Her ball curved gently, kissed the edge of the cup and dropped. The closing curve came from the cleaner's kid. Maria, daughter of the night janitor who'd kept the warehouse spotless during construction, approached shyly, clutching a tablet. She was 14, scholarship recipient, already interning in the prototyping lab. "Director Carter," she said, voice steady despite nerves. "I found something in the protocol." Liam crouched to her level. "Show me." He swiped. Simulation. The Carter Protocol's ethical release clause. 5 years to open source. Maria had modeled a sliding scale. Impact metrics triggering earlier release for high-need regions. "It curves the timeline," she explained. "Like spin on a ball. Same endpoint, faster arc where it matters." Liam studied the numbers. The curve was elegant, obvious in hindsight. He'd missed it. Victor watched, pride swelling. "Fresh eyes," he murmured. Liam straightened, grinning. "Implement it. Your name on the update. Maria Curve." The girl's eyes went wide. The rooftop cheered. Somehow they'd all been watching. Sarah appeared, slipping an arm around Liam's waist. "Another generation already out throwing you." "About time," Liam said. The night wound down with music drifting from the turf below. Fellows danced. Tate allowed himself one beer. Victor dozed in his chair, Sarah's jacket draped over his shoulders. Liam and Maria stood at the railing, city lights painting their faces. "Keep looking for curves," Liam told her. "The best ones hide in plain sight." She nodded, tablet clutched like a trophy. The gala ended with quiet goodbyes. Guests departed in waves. The warehouse settled into its nighttime rhythm, cleaners beginning their rounds, security lights dimming to energy save mode. Liam, Sarah, and Victor lingered on the rooftop one last time. The river reflected the moon. The pitch below was dark now, but the turf lines glowed faintly under residual LEDs. A grid of possibility. Sarah raised an imaginary glass. "To endurance. To motion," Victor added. Liam smiled, pulling the original tennis ball from his pocket. Still scuffed, still perfect. He bounced it once against the rooftop, caught it on the rebound. To the next throw. They descended the ladder together. Victor in the elevator installed for him. Sarah and Liam taking the stairs, footsteps echoing in companionable rhythm. The warehouse doors closed behind them. Northside slept. But inside, the Carter Pitch HQ breathed. 2,800 stories in motion, 37 patents changing lives, 1.1 million healed and counting. The cycle was complete. The alley throw had arced across a decade, landing exactly where it needed to. Each passage conceals a Liam. Choice, observe or avert. Northside chose to avert. And the world followed.